we're gonna be talking literally everything Monsterverse, I think, because this, as of now, is the conclusion to the Monsterverse.
Yeah,
There might be more.
There's an interesting upbringing going on with it, but as of right now, this is like
Confirmed.
we're
This
done.
is the last, but
it's kind of surreal because like it started Godzilla 2014, and like that. Yeah, no, that was in high school 2014, and now we're here, and it's like it's just crazy to think that it's been that long, and that it all feels kind of like yesterday.
But no, Godzilla 2014 was like the big thing in high school. People still will comment on Godzilla groups and such.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Oh, hey, didn't you guys used to do like that big podcast speculating what Godzilla 2014 would be about?" And that was a big thing. It was called World War G. And of course, we were wrong in just about every way. Those World War Gs are why I don't like doing speculation videos anymore.
Yeah.
And there's another reason why I didn't like doing World War G, or why I look back on that show with embarrassment. One is because I was a member of a different group.
Yeah.
Like that. It was a much different time, much more immature, even though I still don't consider myself very mature. But you can just tell in the flow and everything like that just how much we've grown since then. But also, I was not over the post-orgasm that was seeing Godzilla on the big screen.
True.
So, like, I thought everything was perfect and everything was good. And as time has gone on, that has since changed.
Yeah, and to me, I think that's really important. I think that shows not only your growth as someone who's consuming a movie, but just your overall growth of enjoying. I mean, I think I'm saying the same thing. You know what I'm getting at, though.
No. You're absolutely right. Some people might be surprised because I've been pretty anti Monsterverse as a whole. Not, I wouldn't say anti, but my opinions on several things have shifted since rewatching all of these.
Yeah, I definitely, I am 100% in the same camp with you, because I definitely think there are podcasts where I was kind of pretty hard on some of them.
Right.
And, upon, like, from then to now, I definitely have changed tune a little bit with them. There's definitely, like, you'll probably know some of my takes with some of them and there. But I definitely think it's important, like, to know that people can grow and change their tastes. You can't, you're not locked down to one thing. Like, you can just change. It's beautiful. It's a part of life. It's a part of living. You can just change how you feel about something.
You can watch a movie that you watch as a kid, and as you're an adult, you can hate it, or vice versa. Yeah. Let's talk about our basic, overall thoughts of the Monsterverse.
Monsterverse overall? Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you go first, Lucas, since you're the guest?
Okay, so Monsterverse to me is I think it was a cool idea. I think it was a cool idea that definitely. Now, I won't lie, it definitely was piggybacking off, like, cinematic universe, like Marvel and all that. You can't really argue that.
And the end credit scene as well.
It piggybacks off stuff like that, which obviously, it's the big trend when that was getting big.
Yeah.
And to me, with cinematic universe movies in general, I have a kind of staunch statement on a movie needs to stand on its own.
Me too.
It needs to be an enjoyable movie. Because, like, again, I don't hate the Marvel movies. I don't. There are Marvel movies I really like, and there's some I don't like. To me, it's just I want them to stand on their own as a solid piece.
Right.
That's to me. So with Monsterverse, I think Monsterverse is tonally a mess at times.
Oh, really?
But all right, Adam. I'm trying to get all my points out here. But it was nice to see people besides me be like, yo, are you looking forward to this new Godzilla movie, this new Kong movie? I'm like, even if necessarily I didn't like it in the end, it's like, you know what? Yeah. I'm glad to see people happy about this besides me.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, exactly. So, if you're done about your overall opinions of the Monsterverse.
I guess the one other thing I will say is that, truthfully, and when we kind of go more nitty-gritty into it, each movie individually, I don't really hate any of these movies. I don't really dislike any of these movies. I don't think they're the strongest movies, minus one of them, which I'm sure you can assume which one I might be hinting at, but I still enjoy them. I've had a good time watching them. I wasn't, like, like sitting in my seat waiting for this to be over, checking the phone constantly. I was still enjoying these movies, and maybe that's because
me too.
maybe
Yeah.
it's because I'm biased. I like all this, so it's like yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to agree with you. I think that's roughly my opinion of the Monsterverse as well.
Yeah.
I think it was a flame that burned hot and then didn't fell. I'm sorry. Actually, a better analogy is a train that was heading straight for no tracks. The thing that I will say as of right now, I know that there have been developments, but I'll be honest. I hope there are no more Monsterverse movies.
Adam, I am 100% with you. Mainly because I want to see, because it's been, as these movies have been coming out, there's been word of like Toho was like, oh, we want to make our own.
Toho is, I'll confirm that. Toho is dying to make a new Godzilla series.
Would like
live action Godzilla series.
Really want to see that, because as much as I've had fun with these Monsterverse movies, I want to see Toho take back their monster and see what new things they'll do with their monster. Like it's.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want them to introduce new monsters.
Oh yeah,
I want them to do Toho. Shin Godzilla. All I can say is, suddenly, like, everyone was all hyped about 2014, and then Shin Godzilla comes out and just reminds everybody that the Japanese do it best.
Yeah, that was, and it also helped because Anno was directing it.
Anno is a genius. I mean, he was a co-director, granted, but that was Anno's movie.
I'm sorry, I for some reason always think he directed it.
Yeah, well, he directed basically most of the dramatic stuff.
Yeah.
If anything required visual effects, it was Shinji Higuchi.
Okay, my mistake.
But the movie just oozes Hideaki Anno.
Yeah.
Because he also was the main writer in the script.
Yeah.
He was the writer in the script, and he edited it.
Yeah, the editing, especially from the editing, is like you can tell.
That movie is edited within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
But no, I would agree with you that the Monsterverse, if I hope that they don't make more, because despite me saying that it went off the rails, I'm not necessarily meaning that in a bad way.
No, yeah, I don't think you will.
And I hope that we talk about this a little bit later. But it would be 4 solid movies.
Yeah.
4 solid movies that we can sit down, digest, and say, that was fun. And if they just go off the rails, or if they just say, let's just make new ones, I'm almost saying, like, at this point, because the human characters just have been thrown out in general, make a Walking with Dinosaurs style documentary with the kaiju in this universe.
Yeah, because I kind of want to bring up my point then, if that's fine, because it's something that has been bothering me.
Because this is a problem, in my humble opinion, with all of the Monsterverse movies.
Yeah.
Is relatively the human story.
No, I do agree with you.
There's exceptions here and there.
Yeah.
But all of them, I think, the weakest part of them are the human stuff. And I know a lot of people say that it's a Godzilla movie. The human characters usually are the weakest point. I disagree.
Adam, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because, look, I as I mentioned before, I've been really happy that people have been general public has really been enjoying Godzilla and Kong, and knowing like monsters that might be obscure to them, like Rodan or something. Yeah. I know it's not to us. Rodan's like every other day.
Rodan's like, yeah.
It's like every other day. But it's like, there are people who don't really know Rodan, and that's just kind of the truth.
Right.
But with that being said, with that nice thing being said, I need to really state something. Is I am getting really tired. I mean, this is just social media is just terrible in general. But I see comments of people saying, and it's like, people don't watch these movies for the humans. They watch these to watch monsters fight. And to that I say, you do not speak for me. You do not speak for me. All right, dude. Like I know it annoys me. It really does, because I'm like, that's not true in the slightest.
It does annoy me a bit because usually I'll admit these Godzilla movies. They have good characters. They're not usually the most sophisticated characters, but they are fun characters.
Yeah.
And they are, if they're not overly complicated characters, there's usually an interesting plot to go with it. My favorite example of this is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1974. Because like the human characters in that are like one-dimensional characters. But there's like a mystery going on. There's like secret agents involved.
I also just love that movie.
Like, it's such a fun movie.
It's such a fun movie. One was this is one I rewatched I want to recently, as in within the past few years. Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster.
That is such a fun movie.
That movie is so fun.
I don't care what anyone says. I think that Jun Fukuda, the director of that film, him and writer Shinichi Sekizawa, who I praise to no end, writer Shinichi Sekizawa, he was the one basically pulling the cart for Godzilla.
Yeah.
He really was.
Yeah.
Martin brings up something. He says, I guess you haven't heard the news of the next Monsterverse entry in development with working title Son of Kong.
I have heard of it.
I didn't believe that was confirmed.
It seemed like it was confirmed, but like I feel like it's still really, really early.
I hope they don't do any more Godzilla. I'm like, if you
really
if
they
look
can do
at
Kong, like, because
it's quite clear Kong is the heart of the Monsterverse, not Godzilla.
yeah. Which is weird considering Godzilla kicked it off.
Yeah, Godzilla kicked it off.
Yeah.
It is weird. But so let's rank them. Let's rank the four. We'll start best to worst.
Okay.
What's your how would you arrange your four?
All right. So you want me to just go through? Are we gonna go back and forth, or you want me to just go through?
Just list your four.
Okay, chuck on it. For best, and I don't think this is really a surprise to anyone, is 2014. I think that is the best of these movies because it was honestly made as just a standalone movie. It was made to just be a standalone movie. There was no plans for a Monsterverse, and yeah, it has its faults and it has some like really odd decisions in like killing Bryan Cranston and like and all the things people have said.
It's not its fault.
All the things people said, but I still think what that movie does really well, it does really, really well. Like it's this. I will never forget because I saw this movie twice in theaters and both times were in IMAX. I will never forget like the airport scene, how quiet the theater gets when he steps down there. I will never forget that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
me neither.
yeah, to me, 2014, even though it has its faults, I think it's still the strongest of these movies. Now for number two, I don't think we're talking more so from like our personal feelings, right? Like,
absolutely.
I'm sorry. I kind of like King of the Monsters as my number two.
It's fine.
King of the Monsters is my number two. I think it has not great human characters. I don't think the human, especially the mom in that movie, which people have ripped on all the time, especially Rick Stanton. I don't like those characters, but I really, really enjoy how the monsters were portrayed in this film. I enjoyed a lot of the shots in this movie. I liked the soundtrack of this movie a lot, and when this movie is really cool, it's really cool. And it had cool character moments too with Serizawa. Like I legitimately really like that scene. I think that's a great scene, and I think that movie also shows that kind of shift where Godzilla, because that was Godzilla's character movie. That was his like 2014 was introducing him. This was getting into him more as a character. And I know you've said before you don't really necessarily feel that, and I get where you're coming from with that, but I still feel like this movie as a whole kind of shifted that and we're talking Godzilla as a character. He's a character. His dynamic of his world thinking that like, hey, these people actually helped me, and I liked the new designs of King Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra. I think they're really. I liked the new monsters introduced too. I thought they were all really cool. I did too. Especially Behemoth. I love Behemoth.
Yes. Behemoth. You're right.
Behemoth forever. It totally is faulty and nitty and like not that great at times, but I really legitimately I was kind of confused how much of a negative response it got at times. I was like, I don't know, I thought visually it looked pretty good and like the story was kind of whatever. I'll definitely say that. Like I think the Orca is one of the dumbest plot developments for any of these movies ever, but literal plot device. I'm sorry, that's the term.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on from that, my number 3 is going to be Kong Skull Island because that movie is fun. The humans are pretty good in that movie. And I think that was a really solid intro to Kong, to the Kong they're setting up. It's definitely a different character, but for what they're setting up with that movie, I think they did a pretty good job with it. I think that's also one of the, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. It's one of the more like, it definitely knows what it is kind of movies, but it's not like annoying about it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It definitely knows what it is, and I think I do appreciate it from that. There's some things that I was like kind of confused about, like a lot of like, I don't know, I don't know how much of a fan I am for like using like licensed music for these movies. I think it works better with Kong.
It does.
It definitely works better with Kong.
I understand.
Like, yeah,
it does. It totally
I think that kind of works better with that character, but
that's something that I would love to actually mention really quickly is I think we may not as Americans, you know, the American filmmakers making it right now, we may not completely understand Godzilla, but boy, do we understand King Kong.
Yeah, definitely.
The Monsterverse nailed Kong.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely nailed Kong.
And then by process of elimination, and this is like, again, like when we watched it initially together, you know, I enjoyed the movie.
We had a blast.
We had a great time watching
Guys,
it, but
we had a fucking... Jim is in the room with us. He's the one that's kind of mixing this. We had a blast.
Yeah, we had a great time watching it, but I do have to... Yeah, there's our Jim! Yeah! I do have to be honest with myself, and because if I wouldn't be, that'd be go against a lot of things I've said, where I think this is definitely the weakest of all of them. It's definitely the weakest of all of them, and clearly... And I know you could say it had the whole, you know, COVID with everything, that definitely affected it. But at the same time, I don't know, man. There's some things about this movie that are, like, really, really jank at times. That being said, I as I mentioned before, my footnote to this is that I don't really hate any of these movies, but I definitely think they're not... Some of them aren't strong movies. Like,
let's try to avoid spoilers with this bit. But for at least Godzilla vs. Kong. The other movies I don't really care about because they've been out long enough. Yeah. But at least for Godzilla vs. Kong.
No, I mean I was basically finished that point there anyway. Yeah. So it's like so I'll pass the baton to you.
Oh, to me. Here's my original list without going into many details. My original list was going to be Godzilla 2014, King of the Monsters, and this is going best to worst.
Yeah,
King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, Kong Skull Island.
Really?
Yes.
I think I know where you're going with this, though.
That was my original list.
Okay.
Because everybody knows, at least who are fans of mine, who have been a fan of mine for a while, I did a 3-hour rant about how much I hated Kong Skull Island.
I've heard the legend.
The legend of my rant.
Of your 3 hours.
And I haven't taken that video down. It's there. And to me, this is...
And I think that's good. I think you...
It's there. It's not my opinion anymore, but it's still there.
Well, we don't know what your top is yet.
My top 4 now would be Godzilla 2014, still king. By far.
Dave, you actually leave me out. I thought you were going to knock it down for a second. Really? No. I really thought you were.
No, Godzilla 2014 is still my favorite. I having rewatched all of these again in prep for a reviewing of Godzilla vs. Kong, 2014, I loved. In fact, like, for a while there, it was just going down and down and down. This viewing, it went up. Like, I was completely on board with it. I love how all the characters are like, no, we're trying to do the best we can with the scenario, and where you can feel the love and attention behind it. I love Gareth Edwards' direction. I love how that film is shot. That is my favorite shot movie out of all of these films. I love how literally every shot of these monsters is from some person's point of view, where it's down low, it's heavy. It definitely has the best sound design, in my humble opinion, out of all of them. I think it has my favorite soundtrack. I love Alexander Desplat's rapid, heart-pounding score to it. I love his use of, like, trumpets and stuff like that as an homage to some of the older sci-fi movies in general. I just thought it was a wonderful movie. I gave a crap. I do agree. Killing Bryan Cranston off was a mistake. All those faults are in the movie. I also would have had Aaron Taylor Johnson disarm the bomb. I wouldn't have had the bomb explode at the end of the film. I would have had him disarm it. But I love the themes in the film. I love Admiral Stenz. I adore that man. Like he doesn't really have any of a character, but I love how he walks in a room, you know he's in charge. I love that stuff. I love Godzilla 2014 is my kind of movie. It really is my kind of movie in terms of Godzilla. Next would be Kong Skull Island.
All right.
Kong Skull Island went from being my least favorite by far to my second favorite. Watching that movie again, I don't know what the fuck happened, but like a switch flipped in my head. And I was on board. I loved Sam Jackson. John C. Reilly, I always liked.
I love John C. Reilly even before I knew, because I didn't, honestly, I don't think I even, no, I knew from the trailer, but like when I found it out, I'm like, I just like John C. Reilly even
I was
before
so
that.
scared he was going to be nothing but the comic relief in that
I
movie.
thought he was a great character.
And
in that
he is
movie.
the comic relief of the movie, but he plays it in such a way that you kind of forget he's the comic relief of the movie.
Yeah, and even his character is like he's a solid character in the movie.
Yeah, he's a solid character, and I love I love his ending.
Yeah, oh my god, he's
I
fucking
love
having
his fan service ending and stuff like that, and I love how it doesn't even say. I love how he has a moment where he goes like, I know they're probably moved on. My wife and child. I want them to move on.
Yeah,
I just want to see them.
Yeah, that's a great.
And I love that stuff. And John C. Reilly steals the show. Sam Jackson is so good. I genuinely love his character.
I love his character.
I genuinely love his character. And I love the Vietnam subtext in that film.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the Vietnam subtext. This is a theme that I play with in the Godzilla saga that I wrote. Are soldiers who have like fought and died. They've seen their friends fight and die for what? Yeah, and that was Vietnam.
Yeah.
And that's Sam Jackson's entire play. He's like, I've got to find something to make it matter. And it consumes him. He becomes Captain Ahab, essentially.
Yeah,
Kong is his white whale.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that.
I mean, there's a great shot too where it's like it's the stare down between Kong and him.
I love
That's
so much.
Awesome.
And I just fell in love with the movie. The soundtrack isn't as good as G 2014. In fact, it's very forgettable. But I love that this film was not an 80s homage fest or like synthwave and all that stuff that's so popular now. I loved how the movie was very retro 70s because it took place in the 70s. Yeah. I loved the random cannibal Holocaust reference in that film.
Oh, Adam. We've had a conversation before about that movie, and you know I enjoyed that reference too.
Oh, my. We saw that in theaters. First time I saw that in theaters, I'm like, is that a cannibal Holocaust reference? Oh, my God. I agree with Andy. No movie depicted scale as good as Edwards by far. I think scale is just his deal. He did it in Rogue One. He did it in his first movie, Monsters.
I mentioned it to you.
Really good
I mentioned to you where I feel like that's Gareth Edwards' strength. He does scale and spectacle really.
I really wish, and you know what? I think that's what set Godzilla 2014 above literally all the other ones. Is I think it was Gareth Edwards. I don't think it was the writing by far.
I think that's a really good way to look at it. Actually.
I think it was his. Seriously, I think it was his creative vision behind the director's chair that said, "We're going to shoot it this way. We're going to have this character happen here. The helicopter's going to come down here, and it's going to transition into this scene."
Yeah.
And I think it was his direction that made it stand out above all the others. And I think out of all of them, I take that back. Godzilla vs. Kong, I can tell is an Adam Wingard film because of the neon lights.
That's also true.
But I think out of all of them, I think 2014 has the most style out of all of them in terms of a directorial stamp.
I see where you're coming from.
The other ones kind of feel more like anyone could have directed this, especially Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I will get to that.
Yeah. It's a good feeling to see. It's like maybe you've disliked something for so long, and then coming back, and I'm like, you know what? That's I think that's a good thing for people. Like I got games that I don't like that I like. I'm like, oh, this game sucks. I'm like, back to it, or like I bandwagoned a popular game and I was like, oh, this game's popular. I don't like it.
Yes.
So then I went back. I'm like, all right, this game's kind of fun. This game's not bad. The only
with Attack on Titan. I know you don't like Attack on Titan, and a lot of people
but that's actually
on it.
Adam,
I like it.
Adam, that is a great example because yes, I really wasn't big on Attack on Titan. I used to be very like, look at this popular Attack.
Yeah.
I don't have that anymore. I think that I've removed that thought from my brain. I don't think like that anymore. I think that's a terrible way to think. There's only one exception to that rule in my life, and it's the most recent Pokemon game that came out. I will hate that game until the day I fucking
Okay.
That game is fucking garbage.
One last thing I want to say actually about Kong Skull Island. There are still things that I would change. I think John Goodman dies too soon in that movie. Though, granted, I think it's a genuine huge flaw with the script because his character's done, and that's why they kill him off.
Yeah.
Like, he's on the island. Kong's proved, all right, now what's he going to do? But the number one thing that irks me in that movie is the scene where that guy bravely, like, tries to pull himself up, and then he just gets hit by the skull crawler, and I'm just like... That was literally my reaction. I was like,
you know what? I understand where you're coming from with that. I kind of had a feeling you would not like that scene.
No, because to me, what I would have done, if I were handed this which this is probably going to be a recurring thing, is what I would have done.
But I think that's fine.
But if I would have done it, I would have had him because he had all the grenades and shit, and not do that, is during the Kong battle, I would have him like up on the hills, and every once in a while he'd see an opportunity and chuck it, and then the Skullcrawler would come towards him. But because of his experience in Vietnam, he learned from his enemy how to get in and out of places really quickly.
Yeah.
So by the time the Skullcrawler reached him, he's suddenly gone. He's chucking a grenade from somewhere else now. And I would have had that all interconnect with Kong fighting, because they were doing actually a lot of that already. So I was like, just take it one step further, and I would have liked it a lot more. But regardless, still, I really enjoyed the fact. I was genuinely happy that great. I was like, oh, I really enjoyed this. This is good. Number 3 is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Not a fan of this movie.
I understand.
In my opinion, the last 2 movies I will call bad movies. Godzilla, King of the Monsters is textbook. Every time I've watched it, I've liked it less. I think I've evened out finally. Mm-hmm. But if you listen to my podcast with Eric Casey, I was still pretty harsh on it, but I still said I really liked it. I can't say that now. I cannot say it. I mean, I like Bear McCreary's score, but my issue with Bear McCreary's score, and why it's not my favorite of his, or of the Monsterverse, but his score, the only thing I remember from his score is him reusing Ifukube music. And I'm like, then I like Ifukube. But it's not just that. I have an issue with how the monster scenes are shot. The film really doesn't feel heavy. Because there's scenes where the characters are running around, especially in the Boston sequence, where our characters are running around trying to find the orca and find Millie Bobby Brown. Yeah. And like Ghidorah's feet are stepping down, and they're just kind of like going, oh.
Well, to me, I feel like the heavy, and you are right. You are correct.
The scene on the ice is much better.
I love that.
I love that scene.
That scene I'm going to argue with you, mainly because, one, I think that scene's really good.
No, I agree with you. I love that scene in that movie.
I got, unfortunately, a little emotional when I saw that in theaters. This was the first time we've seen...
I got a raging hard on. I got a fucking raging hard on when I saw King Ghidorah come out of the ice and Godzilla comes up and starts fighting.
I made it more of a like sentimental thing. Like, this is the first time we've seen Godzilla and Ghidorah on the screen in however long.
The scene in Godzilla King of the Monsters where I got that was when Mothra came out for the first time. No. When she came out of her cocoon. Yeah. That was the moment I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm so glad I'm a Godzilla fan right now. Yeah. However, where the movie completely falls the fuck apart is that its pacing is all over the place. There are parts in the film that it races right through, and then it lingers on some scenes, and I'm like, why are you lingering on this? Right from the get-go, I had an issue with, they're doing the orca thing with Mothra, and suddenly, like, the containment field fails. Yeah. Okay, and everyone's like, why is it failing? And they're trying to figure it out. All in the corner, you hear this guy immediately go, I think somebody's doing this. And then he just keep going, like, there's no breath in there. Yeah. That should be a reveal. Yeah. That should be, like, while she's talking with Mothra and everything's working, then he should be like, oh my god, I think somebody's doing this. Explosion. Yeah. Then they come in. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that. The very contrived human plot. Yeah. I hate the fact, I fucking detest the fact that they try to make you sympathize with Emma, the mother. Yeah. She is the worst human being to ever live.
That was not a great character.
The fact that they tried to redeem her for a bit when she comes back with her husband and everything like that, I'm like, no. Here's what I would have done. I would have doubled down and I would have made her like Dr. Mifune from Terror Mechagodzilla. Dr. Mifune from Terror Mechagodzilla is a great way where you kind of sympathize with this horrible human being. Yeah. Because he's been fucked over. And you kind of feel his anger, right? And he's constantly battling with this idea because the more he gets involved with the aliens in Terror of Mechagodzilla, the more he's losing his daughter. His daughter is becoming more and more and more and more machine. And you see the plight in his eyes. But he says a line that I just love. And he says, the die has been cast. It's too late. And he doubles down. Yeah. And he sticks with the aliens.
Yeah, I think that could.
And I really love the fact that he gets his comeuppance. He gets brutally shot by the Interpol agents. Yeah. And I'm like, that's his ending. And I'm like, that's a fitting ending for his character. And I think his character is rather tragic because of that. That's what I would have done with Emma, the mother.
I think that's a good idea in general.
And particularly, I would have had Kyle Chandler have to shoot her.
Really?
I would have had Kyle Chandler be the one that have to shoot her. Now I have another issue with Kyle Chandler being too much of an action hero too quickly.
Yeah.
But I would have had him at the beginning more like a Raymond Burr character, where he's kind of just sitting there like, no, Godzilla is doing this, because my favorite scene in Godzilla King of the Monsters is by far the intimidation display that Godzilla does.
Oh yeah,
underwater.
that seems great.
That scene was awesome.
Yeah,
awesome, and it nailed Godzilla.
I also think it was a good it was like a good pseudo jump scare for a movie you wouldn't expect a jump scare in.
Yeah,
and I think it totally worked for that scene.
The only line that I think ruins it is that character that
fucking Rick.
Yeah,
fucking Rick Stanton.
His character says, well, "Yeah, let's invite him in for a beer."
I think that actor is.
He doesn't. He should. If he just said, "Are you out of your mind?"
Yeah,
it would have sold it. But instead, he has that.
He has to have haha funny. I can't stand that character. That's the one thing. It's like, it's funny that I rank that movie so high, but I can't stand that character, and I can't stand Emma.
Right.
Both those characters I cannot tolerate. But
Andrew, you say a lot of people praise the visuals of King of the Monsters, but in my opinion, a lot of it is super muddled, especially with Ghidorah. Looked gray and the whole time because of the storm and rain effects. I agree with you. I kind of liked it with Ghidorah, but in terms of the battle scenes, I did not like it.
And I think I do see where Andrew's coming from.
Well, the scene where like the Argo is flying forward, which I fucking hate the Argo, but where the Argo's flying forward and into the storm when Rodan's giving chase, and all of a sudden you see a flash and you see Ghidorah right in front of it. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I agree with you. I do see what he's saying. The one thing I will say is like, I think I like the shot composition of like that too. That's an example of like there's a great shot when I think it is the Arctic fight when Godzilla and
the Arctic fight is amazing.
Godzilla and Ghidorah like stand off against each other. It's that big wide shot of the two of them standing. You see how huge they are. Like, I like that stuff. That stuff I really like. But I do see where he's coming from with the muddied comment. I'm thinking I'm like, you do have a point with that.
Absolutely. There's a couple of other issues that I have, Rick being the big one, though he didn't annoy me as much in this one. I think it's because I was expecting him to come in.
Can I really quick interject something from my own life in this conversation really quick?
Do it.
My friends from home, they know how much I dislike that character, and they've all doubled down on that fact, and they all apparently fucking love Rick Stanton now. They love, and they do it purposely to annoy me.
To annoy you? Yeah.
I'm like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah. There's only one line he says in the film that I'm on board with, and that's when he's trying to explain the Hollow Earth, and he's going, "It's the subterranean," and he's slowly facing. He's like, "Nobody cares," and I'm like, okay.
You know what? I get to yap there, Rick.
I thought Serizawa's sacrifice was needless and stupid.
Really?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because they're in this nuclear submarine, and I'm like, I think there's about a bajillion people who know better how to arm this bomb and are literally know the risk of them having to go out there and sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that could have been a thing. But besides that,
I don't know.
I understand it because people are like, oh, it's like Spock in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and I'm like, no. In Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the entire theme of that movie, or one of the many themes in that movie, is thinking outside of the box, thinking three-dimensional. And that's what Spock does. While everyone else is trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get away from the ship before it explodes? Spock starts thinking outside the box, and he's like, I know a way. And because of that, he's the only one that knows, I got to go here, I got to do this, and he sacrifices himself in the process. So there's a reason that things are happening. While in this one, I was just like, Serizawa needed to die because Ken Watanabe was getting too expensive to hire back.
Yeah, there's that cynical way to look at it like that, and you are more than likely correct about that. I don't know, that scene worked for me.
It is a good scene. I love how, because if there's one character who, in my opinion, is allowed to physically touch Godzilla, it was his character.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Do you know about the anger skeleton?
I never have been able to spot it.
I've never been able to spot it either. To me, it's still an urban legend, but I like to believe it is actually there. I like Anguirus too, but I think it's funny that he's just dead.
I love that. I like this idea that Godzilla and Anguirus, even in this universe, were like best buds. They're like drinking buddies.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I had an issue with, and we're going too long on King of Monsters, and I've got two things left to say. This one's the longer one.
Okay.
I hate Mothra has no character at all, and they try to make it like they have a symbiotic relationship. There needed to be a scene where it's just her and Godzilla.
I agree with you.
There needed to be a scene where she just climbs over his shoulder and then suddenly flies away and sacrifices herself. I'm like, I don't feel the weight of that. And one of the things that I loved, one of the many things I loved about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, is Mothra is sent to try to say, hey, Godzilla and Rodan, stop fighting each other and let's fight King Ghidorah. He's the real enemy here. And Godzilla and Rodan are like, no, fuck you. and literally just keep fighting anyways until Mothra goes, all right, then I'm going to fight him on my own. And I'm not exaggerating. That's what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
And suddenly they see this little moth thing get blasted by King Ghidorah, wrecked by King Ghidorah. And Godzilla and Rodan take pity on her and are like, oh, fuck me. Fuck me. Okay.
Yeah.
And they team up and they fight the bad guy. I'm like, I was expecting that in this movie. And not because I wanted it to be like Ghidorah the three-headed monster, because I'm like, that's good character shit.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And also, like the scene where Rodan bows to King Ghidorah, I hate it because it's only on a monitor in the background. And like that needed to be a big moment of Rodan bowing to King Ghidorah, because then it would have added more character to him and more nuance to him when he finally bows to Godzilla.
Oh, can I add one thing really quick to that? This is not a long point. I will mention also I fucking love the final frame of this movie.
I don't.
Really?
I think it's terribly composed.
Oh my, what?
I do. I absolutely hate that shot.
Bro, I do not agree with you at all. I don't agree with you at all on that one, man.
I don't like how it looks. I'm sorry.
Nope.
I like the shot where it's like a circle going around him. The shot before it, I love that shot. But that wide, I'm like, so you mean to tell me that Godzilla just happens to be on the only ground that is on top of everything? I don't like how the movie wastes the oxygen destroyer.
Yeah, that was to me.
Absolutely waste the oxygen
That
destroyer.
threw me for a loop. And now no one shuts up about Destroyer being in the Monsterverse now. And like, I love Godzilla vs. Destroyer. That's like one of my favorite Godzilla movies.
Destroyer,
I love that fucking movie. Like both the monster and that movie.
Yeah.
But like,
it's my third favorite Godzilla
You can't rush into Destroyer.
No, you can't.
You can't do that. That's just not how that monster thematically works.
Yeah, exactly. I think they wasted Admiral Stenz quite a bit because, you know what, fuck it, we're talking about this now.
Yeah.
One of the things that drove me absolutely insane about this movie, one of the many things, is how come Monarch suddenly has like all these facilities all over the world? Where did they get the funding from? They're part of the U.S. military, they're part of the U.S. government, but they're not because they're having those hearings all the time.
Yeah.
Why is there this bio-terrorist thing? Where the fuck did that come from? If I were to have made this, I would have taken inspiration from the SCP Foundation.
That's not a bad idea.
I would have made Monarch the SCP Foundation, where their job is to contain and protect particularly contain, these titans, these kaijus, and I would have had Jonah, the Charles Dance character, who actually I love him only because he's Charles Dance and he's an amazing actor. He added nuance to a character who otherwise would have been completely useless. But I would have made him the head of, because in the SCP Foundation, there's also another organization that their objective is not to contain the SCPs, it's to kill them all. Yeah. It is to eradicate them. I would have made that them.
That's actually a really awesome
And person. I would have been because I'm a huge fan of underground organizations. If when the Godzilla saga comes out, you will discover it is chock full of these underground organizations that often butt heads. And I'm obsessed with them. The Dai Li in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Section 31 in Star Trek. Yeah. All these underground organizations I love. Especially the more mystery that there is behind them, the more I love them. But then just a waste of opportunity. To me, King of the Monsters is waste of opportunity, the movie, because like you see in that scene at the very beginning where Serizawa and Stenz are in that meeting in the Pentagon, and I'm killing your insides, I know, and I'm really sorry.
It's fine,
but
no, because you are. I don't even necessarily disagree with you, for the record. Like, I don't, and you make really good points. It's just like I don't know. There's something about this one I was like. Maybe it's a bad viewing on my part where it's like maybe I'm letting too many things slide or something. But
well, I think that movie very much for a lot of fans lets nostalgia. I am just fucking nailing it today. It's so clear because Serizawa keeps looking at Admiral Stenz. And Admiral Stenz keeps glancing over at Serizawa, and you can see regret and respect in both of their eyes. You can see, like, I don't want to have to do this. Yeah. I don't want to have to go against you. But I'm going to have to go against you. And I'm like, you should have really played up that dichotomy in the movie. And like that, it's stuff like that that would make it a compelling story.
Mm-hmm.
You can have these characters with the backdrop of these giant monsters wrecking shit.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that I love Godzilla as a backdrop. I love Godzilla being that threat in the background to the human stuff that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of the driving force of the human stuff. And the last thing I'll say about Godzilla King of the Monsters is, and this is honestly my biggest complaint with the movie, why the fuck didn't they use Rodan's roar?
I wasn't sure where you were going with this at first, but you do have a point.
Why the fuck didn't this movie use Rodan's roar?
I didn't. The worst part is I didn't really even think about it.
Oh, I did.
I can tell you did, Adam. But
The moment, like, I was so excited. I was genuinely excited when Rodan, you see the wings coming out of the volcano, and I love the music in that scene too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm ready to hear Rodan's roar. And I'm like, because I think Rodan's roar, particularly the one from the 56, the original movie, is terrifying as fuck. And I was ready to hear that in theaters. And suddenly it's just this generic cackle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this sucks. Now he's just a giant claw. Except looks cool.
my man. Fuck yeah.
But no, I remember that was the first thing that hit my mind when I left the theaters. First time I watched it, I was like, why the fuck? Ghidorah, that's fine. You can change Ghidorah's roar all the time. His roar has changed all the time. That's fine. But to me, Rodan has a famous roar.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't recognize it's Rodan, you recognize that roar. And I'm like, come on. They use Mothra's roar.
Yeah. And even I think Ghidorah's roar is mixed. Like, it is slightly there.
Most of it is the V-Rex from King Kong 05.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it is the V-Rex from King Kong 05. So, yeah.
You finished your...
I finished. I'm
All right.
sorry.
It's okay. No, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Why are you apologizing?
I just know how much you like that movie.
Yeah,
and I really do. And FYI, everybody, if you've noticed on my channel, I don't like talking about stuff that I don't like. I like talking about stuff that I like.
Yeah. Well, also, Adam, I will mention, I think that's really just a people thing. I don't think anyone really likes to talk about something.
Well, YouTube seems to disagree.
Oh, well, no, that's just the internet. The internet, all the algorithms just favor people yelling at each other. I'm not even wrong here, though. It's
No.
like they just favor people yelling and screaming at each other about stuff. Meanwhile, I'm just like, yo, you know that fucking scene?
Giant monster go boom.
Giant monster go, ah! I'm glad I was on camera for that.
All right, we gotta take down the volume a little bit here, but
sorry.
Yeah, you're right, but no, I hate shitting on a movie that I know people, especially if they're in the room with me, like, because I don't like, because I know how frustrating I get if somebody likes a movie, or somebody doesn't like a movie, and I'm like, no, I fucking
at the same time, I don't like
So
me as a person. I don't really take offense. Like, I used to when I was really young. I used to be like, how dare you not like this movie that I like? But like, I grew up. I got older.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing, like,
yeah, that's the thing.
that's not healthy. It's not healthy to do.
But yeah, no, and then of course, finally, my least favorite of these is Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think of this layout. I intend to bring this layout kind of back for like special occasion stuff. Probably other Godzilla stuff, you know, at least movie wise or show wise and stuff like that. After we watch it all and let it sit in, we'll
maybe even
do
like future holiday stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Imagine making a nice like Halloween setup.
Yeah, like a Halloween setup. Sure. Kind of. Jim's liking that.
Because Jim does the Halloween party, so he's got the decorations, man.
Ah, okay. I gotcha. But let us know. Again, I had a blast.
Oh, me too.
So Lucas, why don't you pimp yourself out for a little bit and let the world know?
Hi everyone, my name's Lucas. I'm 25. I know I'm over here.
I'm 25.
No, right. It throws me off so bad that the TV's right there, that the camera's there.
The camera's there. Well, sorry.
God, it's almost like I went to school in front of cameras. I should know this. Oh, anyway. So hi, I'm Lucas. So I have a Let's Play channel called Gameplay Buddies with my friend Steve, aka Shay64. Check his stuff out too. Edited by.
Look at yourself.
I'm sorry, you scared me. You startled me. You shoved it in my face. It freaked me out.
I'm so startled.
It's okay.
I'm so startled.
But anyway, okay. So Gameplay Buddies, it's my Let's Play channel. My friend Steve, Shay64, check his channel out too. Edited by our friend Bottles, who was actually in the stream before, from Game Controller Network. check him out too as well. That's like my main channel right now. We actually uploaded recently a really long, our first episode of a new show we're trying out called it's either Scribble Buddies or Doodle Buddies, where it's like a drawing show. So we pick a game and we're drawing characters from it. You know, it's like
Right.
we're having fun with it, and it's like it's definitely really fun. It's just takes a while to film, but no, we're looking forward to making more of those. And I do have, and I say this every stream. I have Pow Pop, which is my YouTube channel. It is currently basically defunct. I am working on how I want to bring that back.
Well, everybody, go on Facebook, like Alien Productions for all up-to-date information of what we're doing. And I guess thank you all for tuning in. More videos are definitely going to be coming out very, very, very soon. And I guess in the end, I'm Monster from Alien Productions, joined by Lucas Schloth, A&P partner, and
Gameplay Buddies,
yep,
Pow Pop,
all that wonderful
doing a lot of
jazz.
stuff right now.
Yeah. And we'll see you later. Thanks for
See you.
watching, everybody. Have a good night. We're going to wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a blast talking about this.
Hell yeah.
This is
Dude,
fun.
yeah, I had a great time. Are you kidding me?
Monsterverse!